Welcome to Whisper Facts 101. Here is 101 fascinating facts about Chelsea versus Leverkusen. Chelsea and Bayer Leverkusen have only met twice in official competition, both games occurring during the 2011-12 UEFA Champions League group stage. The first leg was held at Stamford Bridge, where Chelsea secured a 2-0 victory. David Luiz broke the deadlock before Juan Mata added a second late on. The match marked an important early step in what would become Chelsea's first-ever Champions League winning campaign. Despite limited meetings, the intensity and stakes made this fixture particularly memorable. In the reverse fixture played at the Bay Arena in Germany, Bayer Leverkusen managed to exact revenge on Chelsea in dramatic fashion. After Didier Drogba gave the Blues a second-half lead, Aaron Dirdiak leveled the match, and in stoppage time, Manuel Friedrich scored the winner from a corner, sealing a 2-1 victory. This late comeback sent shockwaves through the group and showcased Leverkusen's resilience on home soil against a European heavyweight. The head-to-head record between Chelsea and Bayer Leverkusen stands perfectly balanced. Each team has claimed one win, with no draws between them, and the goal tally slightly favors Chelsea, who scored 3 compared to Leverkusen's 2. Though they've faced each other only twice, this even record adds an air of competitiveness and unpredictability to any potential future clashes between the clubs in European competition. Michael Ballack holds a special place in the shared history of Chelsea and Bayer Leverkusen. After leading Leverkusen to a Champions League final in 2002, Ballack later joined Chelsea and became an integral part of their midfield. He reached another Champions League final in 2008 with the London club, but again finished as runner-up. Despite the disappointments in Europe, he won multiple domestic trophies with Chelsea, including the 2009-10 Premier League and FA Cup double. Kai Havertz is one of the most successful players to transition directly from Bayer Leverkusen to Chelsea. He joined the Blues in 2020 for a then-club record fee and quickly etched his name into Chelsea folklore by scoring the winning goal in the 2021 Champions League final against Manchester City. He later repeated that clutch performance by scoring the winner in the 2022 Club World Cup final, solidifying his legacy at Chelsea after his formative years in Germany. Another player who has featured for both clubs is Callum Hudson-Odoi. A highly rated Chelsea Academy graduate, Hudson-Odoi was loaned to Bayer Leverkusen during the 2022-23 season to gain more playing time and experience. While at Leverkusen, he appeared in Bundesliga and Champions League matches, even scoring in Europe, showcasing his potential and strengthening the growing personal and professional links between the two clubs. When comparing international achievements, Chelsea's European pedigree significantly outshines that of Bayer Leverkusen. Chelsea have won 11 international trophies, including 2 Champions League titles, 2 Europa Leagues, the UEFA Super Cup, and the Club World Cup. Leverkusen, by contrast, have only one major European honor, the 1988 UEFA Cup. This stark contrast underscores Chelsea's greater success and consistency on the continental stage. In 2025, Chelsea made history by becoming the first football club to win all 4 major UEFA men's competitions: the Champions League, the Europa League, the UEFA Cup Winners' Cup, and the UEFA Conference League. Their Conference League triumph came via a dominant 4-1 victory over Real Betis in the final, capping a long journey through Europe and cementing their legacy as one of the continent's most versatile and decorated teams. The 2011-12 Champions League campaign marked Andre Villas-Boas' first and only full group stage run with Chelsea as head coach. Although his tenure didn't last the entire season, his management began Chelsea's journey toward the Champions League title. Ironically, after Villas-Boas' dismissal, interim manager Roberto Di Matteo led Chelsea to glory, beating Bayern Munich, another German side, in the final held in Munich itself. During their 2011-12 Champions League group stage matches, Chelsea and Bayer Leverkusen displayed contrasting styles when it came to set-piece statistics. Chelsea averaged over 11 corners per game during the campaign, indicating a more attack-focused approach, while Leverkusen averaged just under 10. Interestingly, Chelsea conceded more corners on average, showing that while they pressed high, their defense was also frequently tested, making for open, end-to-end encounters. Chelsea's 2011 home win over Bayer Leverkusen was significant beyond the result. It marked a European debut for Andre Villas-Boas as Chelsea's manager and also featured a standout performance from Juan Mata, who had just joined from Valencia. Mata's intelligent movement and creativity gave Chelsea a new attacking edge, and his goal late in the game helped to settle any early season nerves in what was a transitional period for the club. One of the most fascinating subplots of the Chelsea versus Leverkusen rivalry is the contrast in each club's identity and structure. Chelsea, under Roman Abramovich and later Todd Boehly, have operated as one of the biggest financial forces in European football, regularly splashing out on high-profile transfers. In contrast, Leverkusen, a club founded by pharmaceutical workers at Bayer, is known for its smart recruitment, emphasis on youth development, and financial discipline. This clash of footballing cultures adds extra intrigue when they meet on the pitch. Leverkusen's late 2-1 win over Chelsea in the 2011 group stage was one of their most emotional Champions League moments in the modern era. The winner, scored by Manuel Friedrich in injury time, not only secured vital points, but also momentarily gave Leverkusen top spot in the group. The dramatic turnaround was a testament to the team's fighting spirit and resilience, especially considering the caliber of opposition they faced in Chelsea. Despite losing to Leverkusen in the group stage, Chelsea went on to win the 2011-12 Champions League, making them one of the few clubs in history to suffer a group stage defeat and still lift the trophy. Their eventual triumph included wins over Napoli, Benfica, Barcelona, and a dramatic final against Bayern Munich. Leverkusen, however, exited in the round of 16 after a heavy aggregate defeat to Barcelona, showing the divergent paths taken after their meetings. When Chelsea signed Kai Havertz from Bayer Leverkusen in 2020, it represented one of the biggest transfers between a Bundesliga and Premier League club. The transfer fee, reported to be around £72 million, made Havertz Chelsea's most expensive player at the time. His move was seen as a bold step for a young talent, and his impact in decisive matches proved the investment was worthwhile, particularly given his youthful age and potential. Chelsea and Leverkusen have both experienced European heartbreak against Spanish teams. Leverkusen famously lost the 2002 Champions League final to Real Madrid, with Zinedine Zidane scoring one of the most iconic goals in football history. Chelsea, on the other hand, had suffered painful exits at the hands of Barcelona in 2009 and 2012 semi-finals. These experiences have shaped both clubs' mental approach to European nights, especially when facing continental giants. A little-known connection between the clubs involves André Schürrle, who began his rise at Mainz before moving to Bayer Leverkusen, where he impressed enough to earn a transfer to Chelsea in 2013. Although Schürrle never fully settled in West London, he was part of Jose Mourinho's 2014-15 Premier League winning squad. His journey reflected the increasing talent pipeline flowing from the Bundesliga to the Premier League during the 2010s. Chelsea's tactical evolution over the years stands in contrast to Leverkusen's more consistent identity. During the 2011-2025 period, Chelsea went through multiple managerial changes: Villas-Boas, Di Matteo, Mourinho, again, Conte, Sarri, Lampard, Tuchel, and others, each with differing styles. Leverkusen, while not immune to changes, have maintained a relatively stable philosophy centered around fast transitions, youth promotion, and attacking play, creating an interesting stylistic contrast in direct matchups. The club's supporter bases reflect very different dynamics. Chelsea, based in the heart of London, have a global fan base with massive appeal in Asia, Africa, and North America. Their rise in the 2000s turned them into one of the most recognized clubs worldwide. Leverkusen, although respected across Germany and Europe, maintain a more localized fan identity, rooted in the working-class traditions of the Rhineland and closely tied to the Bayer company that founded them. One remarkable statistic from the 2011-12 Champions League group stage is that Chelsea and Leverkusen's two meetings produced all 5 of their total goals in the final 45 minutes. The first half of both fixtures ended goalless, and all the drama unfolded after the break. This trend underlined the team's tendencies to grow into matches and adjust tactically at halftime, making the second halves particularly entertaining and decisive in both games. One of the most memorable performances in the Chelsea vs Bayer Leverkusen matches came from Petr Cech in the 2011-12 group stage, where he delivered a stunning save in the second half of the return leg. With the score at 1-1, Cech's quick reflexes and ability to read the game kept Chelsea in contention, allowing them to stay in the hunt for a favorable result. His performance was a vital factor in Chelsea's ultimate progress to the knockout stages. Chelsea's 2012 Champions League success was marked by the growth of key players from the 2011-12 campaign, such as Ramirez, who scored one of the most iconic goals in their semi-final against Barcelona. However, another key figure who shone throughout this period was Juan Mata, who had a crucial assist against Leverkusen in the group stage. Mata's vision and ability to dictate tempo were integral to Chelsea's attacking play, especially in European fixtures. In the 2011-12 Champions League, Chelsea's matches with Bayer Leverkusen were among the few games that saw them concede goals from set pieces. Known for their solid defensive record, Chelsea's vulnerability on corners and free kicks was a rare chink in their armor, one that Leverkusen exploited, particularly in the second game. Leverkusen's ability to capitalize on these situations hinted at a potential weak spot in Chelsea's defense, which would later be exploited by other teams in the competition. Another interesting aspect of Chelsea's and Bayer Leverkusen's 2011-12 group stage games was the role of the fullbacks. Chelsea's Branislav Ivanovic and Leverkusen's Philip Woolscheid played vital defensive roles, but they also contributed going forward. In both fixtures, the fullbacks provided much-needed width and support in attack, with Ivanovic even getting involved in several key aerial duels. Their overlapping runs were essential to each team's offensive shape, adding an extra dimension to the game. The tactical differences between Chelsea and Leverkusen during their 2011-12 Champions League encounters were apparent, with Chelsea often relying on their more experienced, disciplined counter-attacking approach under Villas-Boas. Meanwhile, Leverkusen focused on a high-pressing, quick-transition style under Jupp Heynckes. The matchups highlighted the strategic contrast between the two sides, one known for its high possession and fluid passing, while the other focused on explosive, direct attacking play, often relying on the speed of players like Andre Schürrle and Patrick Helms. Despite the intensity and importance of the two matches between Chelsea and Leverkusen in 2011-12, both clubs had relatively quiet European campaigns that year outside of the group stage. While Chelsea progressed to win the Champions League, Leverkusen were knocked out in the round of 16 by Barcelona in a crushing 10-2 aggregate defeat. This contrast in fortunes showed just how unpredictable the Champions League can be, with Chelsea defying the odds to lift the trophy despite an inconsistent group stage performance. The tactical influence of Bayer Leverkusen's manager, Jupp Heynckes, cannot be underestimated when considering their performances in European competitions. Heynckes' approach during their matches with Chelsea focused on creating a high tempo and exploiting spaces in Chelsea's defense. His emphasis on attacking football and rapid transitions was clear, and it was evident that Leverkusen had a distinct strategy of taking on big European clubs like Chelsea. Heynckes' management style was later replicated with Bayern Munich, where he led them to success in the 2013 Champions League. A key factor in Chelsea's victory over Leverkusen in their 2011 Champions League group stage match was the Blues' resilience, after conceding an early chance in the second half. After weathering a Leverkusen storm, Chelsea's experienced players, including Frank Lampard and Didier Drogba, showed leadership by taking control of the game and capitalizing on key moments. Drogba's link-up play and Lampard's ability to dictate the midfield proved critical to the team's eventual victory on the night. The 2011-12 Champions League group stage meetings between Chelsea and Bayer Leverkusen also saw the emergence of a new tactical trend in European football: the use of versatile attacking players in wide positions. Chelsea's Juan Mata and Leverkusen's Sidney Sam both showcased the value of wide forwards who could drift inside and create goal-scoring opportunities. This fluidity and flexibility in attack became a staple in European tactics, especially with teams like Chelsea adopting a more dynamic, unpredictable forward line. Looking at the broader picture, Chelsea's and Bayer Leverkusen's respective histories in European football have been quite different, with Chelsea's success in the Champions League becoming a defining feature of their modern era. Meanwhile, Leverkusen's reputation has been built around consistent top-four finishes in the Bundesliga and occasional deep runs in Europe. The rivalry between the two, though brief in terms of direct encounters, highlights the contrasting paths each club has taken. Chelsea as a perennial continental powerhouse and Leverkusen as a club with a focus on developing talent and competing at the highest level. The 2011-12 UEFA Champions League group stage clash between Chelsea and Bayer Leverkusen was a showcase of contrasting team dynamics. Chelsea, a team well-versed in knockout football, relied on their seasoned stars like Didier Drogba and Frank Lampard to dictate the pace, while Leverkusen, a team with a youthful energy, looked to exploit Chelsea's defensive gaps using their quick attackers. This strategic battle between experience and speed played a huge part in both teams' European journeys. In the years since their 2011-12 encounters, both Chelsea and Bayer Leverkusen have seen a shift in their managerial approaches. Chelsea, under the stewardship of coaches like Antonio Conte, Maurizio Sarri, and Thomas Tuchel, have adopted a more pragmatic, defensive-first style in many seasons, while still maintaining their attacking strength. On the other hand, Leverkusen's focus under managers like Peter Bosz and Gerardo Sion has remained on high-pressing, fluid attacking football, reflecting the evolution of German football tactics over the years. A notable fact from the 2011-12 Champions League group stages is that Chelsea's home victory over Bayer Leverkusen was one of their last games in the competition before Didier Drogba truly established himself as the club's talisman in European finals. Drogba's leadership and powerful presence up front, demonstrated in his decisive performances, would be crucial later that season when he famously scored the equalizer in the 2012 Champions League final against Bayern Munich. Another crucial piece of Chelsea's success in the 2011-12 Champions League campaign, particularly in their encounters with Bayer Leverkusen, was the reliable performances of their midfield general, John Obi Mikel. Mikel played a pivotal defensive midfield role, disrupting Leverkusen's rhythm and shielding the back line, ensuring Chelsea's transition from defense to attack was smooth. His ability to break up the play and shield the ball allowed Chelsea's more attacking players to express themselves freely. The fixtures between Chelsea and Bayer Leverkusen in the 2011-12 Champions League group stage also highlighted the importance of squad depth. While Chelsea had the luxury of top-class backups in nearly every position, including players like Florent Malouda and Salomon Kalou, Leverkusen, while talented, had fewer options to rotate in their squad. The depth and experience of Chelsea's bench would later prove to be crucial in their knockout stage matches, especially against the likes of Barcelona and Bayern Munich. Bayer Leverkusen's youth development system has long been a point of pride for the club. Even during their encounters with Chelsea in 2011-12, Leverkusen's ability to integrate young talent into their first team was evident. Players like Toni Kroos, who had developed through the club's youth ranks, had already gained valuable experience in European competitions. Leverkusen's consistent focus on nurturing young stars, like Kai Havertz later on, has been a key part of their identity and success in the Bundesliga. Chelsea's strong defensive record in their Champions League group stage campaign in 2011-12 was somewhat tested by Bayer Leverkusen, who showed that they could exploit the Blues on the counterattack. Despite Chelsea's overall strong form, Leverkusen's speed, particularly from players like Andre Schürrle, kept them on edge, forcing Chelsea to sharpen their defensive play. The tactical battle of counterattacking football versus solid defense is something that would define many of Chelsea's European games that season. A major subplot of Chelsea's 2011-12 Champions League campaign was the rise of their young Spanish playmaker, Juan Mata. Mata's brilliant dribbling and creative passing made him a key figure in the team, and his assist for Didier Drogba's goal against Bayer Leverkusen further cemented his status as one of the club's most influential players. His ability to unlock defenses and link up play was invaluable, particularly in high-pressure situations, and he would go on to play a decisive role in Chelsea's European triumph. In their brief history of encounters, the Chelsea vs. Bayer Leverkusen fixtures in the 2011-12 Champions League showcased some remarkable individual performances. One standout for Leverkusen was goalkeeper Bernd Leno, who was a crucial figure in their defensive structure. Leno's sharp reflexes and solid shot-stopping ability made him a reliable figure during the matches against Chelsea, and his growth into one of Germany's top goalkeepers post 2012 reinforced his status as a rising star in European football. In the years following their 2011-12 Champions League campaign, Chelsea and Bayer Leverkusen saw significant changes in their fortunes. While Chelsea cemented their place as one of Europe's elite teams, regularly competing for domestic and international honors, Leverkusen, though still competitive in the Bundesliga, remained a club striving to break into the upper echelon of European football. Their early Champions League exits, despite consistently strong Bundesliga finishes, were a reminder of the gap between clubs of their respective levels of financial investment and squad depth. The 2011-12 Champions League group stage encounters between Chelsea and Bayer Leverkusen were notable for the contrast in defensive approaches. While Chelsea boasted a well-organized defense, led by captain John Terry and veteran Petr Cech, Leverkusen's defensive line was often under pressure, having to deal with the attacking prowess of Chelsea's experienced frontmen. This tug-of-war between defense and attack reflected the high stakes of European football and the different tactical philosophies of both clubs. A key part of Chelsea's tactical approach during their matchups with Bayer Leverkusen in the 2011-12 Champions League was the importance of width. Chelsea often stretched Leverkusen's defense with the pace of their wingers, particularly Florent Malouda and the overlapping runs of right-back Branislav Ivanovic. This width allowed Chelsea to create space and exploit the gaps in Leverkusen's defense, leading to multiple dangerous crosses into the box. A particularly intriguing subplot of Chelsea versus Bayer Leverkusen in 2011-12 was the battle between two former Bundesliga stars, Michael Ballack, who was nearing the end of his Chelsea career, and the youthful energy of Leverkusen's midfield. Ballack's experience and leadership were crucial for Chelsea, while Leverkusen's midfield, led by players like Simon Rolfs, looked to counter Chelsea's veteran presence with speed and intensity. The contrast of styles highlighted the ongoing evolution of European football. Despite the intense competition in the 2011-12 Champions League group stage, Chelsea and Bayer Leverkusen shared mutual respect on the pitch. This was particularly evident in the first leg at Stamford Bridge, where both teams demonstrated a high level of sportsmanship, despite the fierce rivalry. The acknowledgement of Leverkusen's quality and Chelsea's resilience in the post-match interviews underscored the respect between the two clubs, reflecting their shared ambitions in European competition. The rivalry between Chelsea and Bayer Leverkusen, though limited in direct encounters, can be traced back to broader connections between German and English football. Chelsea's matches with Leverkusen fit into a larger context of English clubs facing German opposition in the Champions League during the early 2010s, where tactical approaches from the Bundesliga often tested the tactical rigidity of Premier League sides. The Chelsea-Leverkusen encounters contributed to this fascinating tactical exchange between two of Europe's most prestigious leagues. Leverkusen's resilience against Chelsea during the 2011-12 Champions League group stages was a reflection of their deep-rooted belief in their footballing philosophy. Despite their defeat in the first leg, Leverkusen's determination to push Chelsea to the limit in the second leg at the Bay Arena was a sign of their intent. Their aggressive pressing and high defensive line were elements that would later define their style, influencing how they approached future European campaigns. One of the more symbolic moments in Chelsea's 2011-12 Champions League campaign came during their dramatic knockout round tie against Napoli. But the influence of their earlier group stage encounters with Leverkusen should not be underestimated. Those early tests helped Chelsea build momentum, especially given the strong defensive and midfield performances against a tactically savvy Leverkusen side. That match against Leverkusen, in particular, provided Chelsea with valuable lessons on managing the pressure of high-stakes European games. Another fascinating aspect of the Chelsea-Leverkusen rivalry is the contrasting cultures of their fan bases. While Chelsea supporters are known for their passionate and vocal presence at Stamford Bridge and across the globe, Bayer Leverkusen's fans tend to have a more local, community-based following in the city of Leverkusen. The cultural differences between the clubs, both in terms of history and fan culture, have added layers to their brief encounters, showcasing the diversity of European football. In terms of youth development, both Chelsea and Bayer Leverkusen have been known for producing world-class talent, albeit with differing approaches. While Chelsea's academy has grown into one of the most productive in Europe, regularly producing players who go on to make an impact in the Premier League or abroad, Leverkusen has remained a hub for developing young German talent, including Kai Havertz, who made a high-profile move to Chelsea in 2020. Their respective youth development systems continue to produce talent that influences both domestic and international football. The 2011-12 Champions League group stage encounters between Chelsea and Bayer Leverkusen were crucial in shaping both teams' campaigns that season. Chelsea's win in the first leg bolstered their confidence in the early stages of the tournament, eventually culminating in a historic Champions League title. Conversely, Leverkusen's inability to get past the group stage showed the fine margins between success and failure in European competition. These moments highlighted the unpredictable nature of the Champions League and the importance of every single fixture in a group stage campaign. One of the key turning points for Chelsea during their 2011-12 Champions League campaign was their ability to grind out results in tough, away games, like their visit to Bayer Leverkusen. Despite not having the best of performances, Chelsea managed to stay resilient and salvage a 2-1 loss, which kept them in control of the group. This adaptability proved vital as Chelsea advanced and ultimately triumphed in the tournament. Bayer Leverkusen's attack in their group stage meetings with Chelsea, particularly from players like André Skirl and Aaron Dirdiak, demonstrated how Bundesliga sides were increasingly focusing on direct, high-intensity play. Leverkusen's tactical use of pace and vertical passing challenged Chelsea's defense, forcing them to adjust and focus on closing down spaces quickly. This emphasis on counter-attacking football was an exciting contrast to Chelsea's more possession-based approach. The two clubs also shared a rare distinction during the 2011-12 UEFA Champions League. They both had extremely strong set-piece specialists. Chelsea's Juan Mata and Frank Lampard were known for their ability to deliver precise, dangerous balls into the box, while Leverkusen's Simon Rolfs and Michael Ballack offered an aerial threat. Both teams demonstrated that set pieces could be a game-changer in tight European encounters, adding further tactical complexity to their clashes. The 2011-12 Champions League meetings between Chelsea and Bayer Leverkusen were also notable for the contrast in their squad's European pedigree. While Chelsea, under the stewardship of experienced players like Drogba, Lampard, and Terry, had years of Champions League experience, Leverkusen had a youthful, hungry squad eager to make a mark in Europe. This difference in experience versus youthful energy created an interesting dynamic, which was evident throughout the two group stage encounters. Another highlight of the Chelsea-Leverkusen encounters was the battle between the two teams' goalkeepers. Petr Cech, known for his commanding presence in the box and ability to pull off key saves, was tested multiple times in both matches, while Leverkusen's Bernd Leno made several impressive saves. The performances of these two goalkeepers reflected the increasing level of competition in European football, with both men often being the last line of defense in high-pressure situations. In 2011, when the two teams first met in the Champions League, Chelsea were at a critical juncture in their transition under André Villas-Boas. The young Portuguese manager, who had been brought in to revitalize the team with his progressive style, was quickly learning the demands of European football. Despite his relatively young managerial age, Villas-Boas faced the experienced tactics of teams like Leverkusen, who were seasoned in European competition, presenting a significant challenge in the group stage. Chelsea's match against Bayer Leverkusen in the 2011-12 Champions League was pivotal in shaping their eventual triumph. In the wake of Villas-Boas' departure, the team rallied around interim manager Roberto Di Matteo, who instilled confidence and structure. Di Matteo's emphasis on tactical discipline and efficient counterattacks would later be evident in Chelsea's knockout games, where they went on to beat some of Europe's finest teams, eventually lifting the Champions League trophy. Bayer Leverkusen's focus on developing young, dynamic players was evident in their performances against Chelsea. The likes of Sidney Sam, André Skirl, and Lars Bender all stood out, proving that Leverkusen's recruitment system and emphasis on youth development were beginning to pay off. Their energy and technical ability caused Chelsea problems, and Leverkusen's approach was a precursor to the way many Bundesliga teams would approach European football in the years to come. The significance of the 2011-12 Champions League encounter between Chelsea and Bayer Leverkusen extends beyond just football tactics. The group stage fixture at Stamford Bridge marked a new era for Chelsea in European football. Despite their historical failure to win the tournament, Chelsea had assembled a squad that was determined to go all the way. The match against Leverkusen, despite being a group stage affair, represented a key moment in the larger narrative of Chelsea's eventual European glory. Finally, both Chelsea and Bayer Leverkusen's meetings in 2011-12 served as a reminder of how European football can be unpredictable and thrilling. Despite Chelsea's rich history and Leverkusen's strong domestic form, the group stage games showed that even the best teams can have their vulnerabilities, and any team can exploit weaknesses. This unpredictability is part of what makes the Champions League so captivating, where even one match can influence the outcome of an entire tournament. The rivalry between Chelsea and Bayer Leverkusen was shaped by an interesting connection in terms of the international footballing market. In the early 2010s, many young German players, including several from Leverkusen, were being scouted heavily by Premier League clubs. Chelsea's acquisition of players like Andre Schürrle and Kai Havertz was a testament to the Bundesliga's rising influence on English football. These transfers further heightened the competition and mutual respect between the two clubs. A standout feature of Chelsea's 2011-12 Champions League campaign was their ability to maintain composure under pressure, especially in tight matches like those against Bayer Leverkusen. Chelsea's experience in high-stakes situations, bolstered by key figures like Petr Cech and John Terry, allowed them to weather the storm during difficult moments. These qualities would ultimately come to the fore during their dramatic knockout stage victories over Napoli, Barcelona, and Bayern Munich. Bayer Leverkusen's squad during their 2011-12 Champions League run had a strong emphasis on technical ability, and they were known for their intelligent passing and fluid attacking play. Their sharp, one-touch football made them a tricky opponent for Chelsea, especially during counterattacks. Despite their impressive play, Leverkusen fell short in the group stage, highlighting how even the best tactical teams can struggle in the cutthroat environment of the Champions League. An interesting footnote in Chelsea's 2011-12 Champions League run was their use of unconventional strategies to unlock tight defenses, including Bayer Leverkusen's. With the likes of Frank Lampard and Juan Mata, Chelsea frequently relied on quick, incisive through balls to break down opposing defenses. This approach contrasted with the more direct counter-attacking methods employed by teams like Leverkusen, showing how the tactical landscape of European football was shifting at the time. The 2011-12 Champions League matches between Chelsea and Bayer Leverkusen also marked a defining point in the career of Chelsea's Brazilian midfielder Ramirez. Ramirez played a crucial role in Chelsea's midfield during the group stages, and his dynamic energy, box-to-box runs, and ability to recover the ball were key in helping Chelsea navigate challenging encounters. His tireless work ethic was particularly evident in Chelsea's 2-0 win at home to Leverkusen. Another interesting narrative within the Chelsea versus Bayer Leverkusen rivalry was the contrast in club philosophy. Chelsea's financial backing, particularly in the Abramovich era, allowed them to focus on acquiring top-level talent from around the world, which helped build their global appeal. Bayer Leverkusen, by contrast, prided themselves on developing homegrown players and operating with a more sustainable financial model. This difference in resources and strategies highlighted the different paths taken by both clubs in European football. Although Chelsea and Bayer Leverkusen only met in the 2011-12 Champions League group stage, the fixtures were part of a larger trend of English clubs meeting Bundesliga teams in the knockout rounds of the competition. These matchups often involve contrasting styles of play, with English teams emphasizing strength and pace while German teams relied on tactical intelligence and technical prowess. The clashes between Chelsea and Leverkusen reflected this dynamic, which became more pronounced in subsequent seasons. Chelsea's victory over Bayer Leverkusen in the 2011-12 Champions League group stage was part of a broader trend, where the club managed to perform in Europe despite some inconsistencies in their domestic form. Under Andre Villas-Boas, Chelsea faced mixed results in the Premier League, but their ability to perform on the continental stage against quality opposition like Leverkusen showed that they were still capable of being competitive on the European front, especially in knockout-style competition. An interesting tactical dynamic in the Chelsea-Leverkusen games of 2011-12 was the role of the fullbacks. Both clubs relied heavily on the attacking contributions of their fullbacks, who frequently surged forward to support the attack. For Chelsea, Branislav Ivanovic and Ashley Cole were key outlets, while Leverkusen's Michael Kadlec and Gonzalo Castro played similarly important roles. Their overlapping runs, defensive duties, and contribution to build-up play became a defining feature of both teams' play. One of the defining moments of Chelsea's 2011-12 Champions League group stage clash with Bayer Leverkusen came in the second half, when Chelsea had to dig deep after conceding a goal to equalize and eventually win. Their response to adversity, particularly from senior players like Didier Drogba and Frank Lampard, showed the mental fortitude required to excel in Europe. The game encapsulated the resilience Chelsea would need throughout the tournament, setting the tone for their eventual Champions League triumph. The 2011-12 Champions League group stage games between Chelsea and Bayer Leverkusen provided valuable lessons for both clubs in terms of squad rotation and managing fatigue in European competitions. Chelsea, in particular, had a deep squad that allowed them to rotate key players and still maintain competitive performances. This depth proved vital as they progressed through the tournament, eventually winning the Champions League, while Leverkusen struggled with injuries and depth issues that hampered their campaign. Chelsea's ability to neutralize Bayer Leverkusen's dangerous counterattacks was a critical factor in their 2-0 victory in the first leg. Leverkusen's fast and direct style of play, led by Andre Schürrle and Sidney Sam, posed a significant threat. However, Chelsea's disciplined defense, with John Terry and David Luiz providing stability at the back, ensured that Leverkusen's pace was often nullified. This defensive balance was one of the key features of Chelsea's European success that season. During the 2011-12 group stage games, Chelsea's midfield dynamism was exemplified by the performances of Ramires and Juan Mata. Ramires' ability to cover ground and contribute both defensively and offensively was key in limiting Leverkusen's attacking options. Mata, on the other hand, showcased his creativity and vision by providing key assists, including one in the 2-1 defeat against Leverkusen. Their partnership in midfield added a blend of energy and technical skill that helped Chelsea control games in Europe. The tactical approach of Chelsea during their 2011-12 group stage matches against Bayer Leverkusen emphasized a solid, structured defense with a quick transition to attack. This strategy allowed them to absorb pressure from Leverkusen's high press and exploit spaces left open on the counter. Although the matches were challenging, Chelsea's ability to adapt and use their counter-attacking strength was crucial, foreshadowing their success in the knockout rounds when they employed a similar game plan to overcome Barcelona and Bayern Munich. Bayer Leverkusen's European ambitions were clearly evident during their 2011-12 Champions League campaign, and the team was considered one of the most promising sides in Germany at the time. With young stars like Andre Schürrle and Toni Kroos gaining international recognition, the club's European campaign was seen as an opportunity to showcase their talent. Their games against Chelsea, though ultimately unsuccessful, provided them with valuable experience that would shape their future European performances. The group stage match between Chelsea and Bayer Leverkusen at Stamford Bridge in 2011 marked a significant point in Andre Villas-Boas' tenure. Despite the team's mixed Premier League form under his management, the victory against Leverkusen showed that Villas-Boas could deliver results in European competitions. The win gave the team confidence moving forward, but it also underlined the pressure on Villas-Boas to maintain consistency, something that would be a challenge later in the season. Chelsea's ability to win close matches during the 2011-12 Champions League campaign was often attributed to their experience in big European games. Players like Didier Drogba, Frank Lampard, and Petr Cech were accustomed to the high-pressure situations that came with competing in the knockout stages. Their mental strength and match-winning capabilities were particularly evident in their game against Bayer Leverkusen, where they weathered the storm and claimed an important 3 points despite a tough challenge. The 2011-12 group stage fixture between Chelsea and Bayer Leverkusen also highlighted the contrasting managerial styles of Andre Villas-Boas and Leverkusen's Jupp Heynckes. While Villas-Boas' focus was on building possession-based football with an emphasis on youthful energy, Heynckes utilized a more direct, high-pressing strategy that focused on exploiting spaces behind the opposition's defense. This tactical difference created an intriguing tactical battle, which ultimately saw Chelsea edge out Leverkusen in both encounters. Frank Lampard's importance to Chelsea's success in their 2011-12 Champions League campaign cannot be overstated, particularly in their games against Bayer Leverkusen. Lampard's composure on the ball and his ability to make decisive passes from midfield were key to Chelsea's dominance in possession. In their 2-1 defeat to Leverkusen, Lampard's leadership and ability to control the tempo in midfield became evident, even in a losing effort. His experience was invaluable, especially in high-pressure situations later in the competition. In the 2011-12 Champions League group stages, Chelsea's 2-1 loss to Bayer Leverkusen was a wake-up call for the team, highlighting the vulnerabilities in their defense. Leverkusen, playing at home, exploited Chelsea's defensive lapses, forcing them into uncomfortable situations. While Chelsea still managed to progress from the group stage, the loss exposed areas where they would need to improve, particularly in terms of their ability to deal with fast transitions and high-pressing opposition. Chelsea's defensive strategy during the 2011-12 Champions League group stages, including their matches against Bayer Leverkusen, often relied on a deep, compact defensive block. This approach was intended to neutralize the attacking threats of teams like Leverkusen, who thrived on pace and quick transitions. While Chelsea's defensive unit, led by veteran John Terry, was effective at keeping attackers at bay, it was also a tactic that sometimes left them vulnerable to set pieces and long-range shots. A remarkable element of Chelsea's 2011-12 Champions League journey, including their encounters with Bayer Leverkusen, was the crucial role played by their captain, John Terry. Terry's leadership, both in organizing the defense and in providing a constant physical presence in the penalty area, was invaluable. In the matches against Leverkusen, Terry's commitment to tracking dangerous players and blocking shots ensured Chelsea could remain competitive against quality teams in Europe. The performances of Chelsea's summer signing Juan Mata in the 2011-12 Champions League group stage were particularly impressive against Bayer Leverkusen. Mata's technical skills and intelligence on the ball made him one of the most creative players for Chelsea, constantly looking for opportunities to break down Leverkusen's defense. His vision and ability to make key passes in tight spaces helped Chelsea unlock their opponents, contributing to their ultimate European success. Bayer Leverkusen's youth development system, which produced talented players like Toni Kroos, Andre Schürrle, and Lars Bender, continued to be a point of pride for the club. Their development of homegrown talent was clearly visible in the 2011-12 Champions League group stage matches, where young players like Schürrle showcased their potential on the European stage. Leverkusen's emphasis on nurturing young players proved to be an integral part of their identity as a club in European competitions. Chelsea's squad depth in 2011-12 was one of the major factors that helped them in their encounters with Bayer Leverkusen. With players like Florent Malouda, Daniel Sturridge, and Salomon Kalou providing options off the bench, Chelsea's ability to rotate without sacrificing quality was crucial during a long and demanding European campaign. This depth allowed them to maintain intensity throughout the tournament, particularly in their matchups against tough opponents like Leverkusen. The performances of Chelsea's goalkeeper, Petr Cech, in their 2011-12 Champions League campaign, including in their games against Bayer Leverkusen, were critical. Cech's calm and composed demeanor in high-pressure situations, such as his penalty shootout heroics in the final, had roots in his early Champions League encounters like those against Leverkusen. His ability to make key saves and command his box helped Chelsea to keep crucial clean sheets, contributing to their eventual title. In the 2011-12 Champions League group stage, Bayer Leverkusen's 2-1 win against Chelsea at the Bay Arena was one of the standout results of their campaign, but it ultimately wasn't enough for them to progress past the group stage. Leverkusen played with intensity and confidence, but despite their efforts, they were unable to advance, highlighting the thin margins that separated teams in such a competitive group. The result also showed the unpredictable nature of the Champions League, where even strong performances could lead to elimination. Despite not advancing beyond the group stage, Bayer Leverkusen's performances in the 2011-12 Champions League, particularly in their matches against Chelsea, helped cement their reputation as one of the top clubs in Germany. Their solid showing in Europe proved that they could compete with some of the best teams in the continent, and the lessons learned from these encounters were vital for the club's future European campaigns. The 2011-12 Champions League encounters between Chelsea and Bayer Leverkusen were a precursor to the later success of German clubs in European football. While Leverkusen didn't make it past the group stages, their performances in the group stage indicated the rising strength of German teams. It wouldn't be long before the Bundesliga would see clubs like Bayern Munich and Borussia Dortmund becoming consistent contenders in the Champions League, further raising the profile of German football. One of the more intriguing aspects of the Chelsea versus Bayer Leverkusen rivalry was the contrast in their club philosophies. Chelsea, with their high-profile investments and global brand, were a powerhouse of European football, constantly vying for titles. In contrast, Bayer Leverkusen, despite being a talented and competitive side, had to work within a more modest financial framework. This contrast in resources and expectations highlighted the challenge faced by smaller clubs in Europe, trying to compete with the elite while remaining competitive domestically. The 2011-12 Champions League encounters between Chelsea and Bayer Leverkusen were significant in highlighting the importance of squad cohesion in European football. Despite having individual stars, both teams relied on teamwork and tactical discipline to stay competitive in the Champions League. Chelsea's ability to stay united under pressure was vital in their eventual triumph, while Leverkusen's lack of cohesion in key moments ultimately cost them a deeper run in the competition. In terms of attacking philosophy, Chelsea's approach during their Champions League campaign, including their meetings with Bayer Leverkusen, was based on a strong transition game. While Leverkusen often looked to dominate possession with intricate passing, Chelsea's ability to transition quickly from defense to attack, particularly through the pace of players like Daniel Sturridge and Ramirez, was a key weapon. This tactical contrast between possession-heavy and counter-attacking football was evident throughout their group stage matchups. The 2011-12 Champions League was a breakout year for Bayer Leverkusen's young forward Andre Schürrle, who would go on to make a high-profile move to Chelsea in 2013. Schürrle's performances against Chelsea in the group stage showed glimpses of his future potential. His speed, dribbling, and eye for goal made him a standout player for Leverkusen, and his ability to trouble Chelsea's defense was a sign of things to come in his career. One of the lasting legacies of Chelsea's 2011-12 Champions League win was the club's shift in mentality. After years of near misses, the team's perseverance through tough encounters, such as their 2-1 loss to Bayer Leverkusen, symbolized the mental fortitude that would define their ultimate victory. Chelsea's ability to bounce back from defeats and challenges was a defining characteristic of their successful campaign, with every result playing a part in their eventual glory. Another interesting aspect of the Chelsea-Leverkusen rivalry was the tactical battle between two of Europe's more innovative managers at the time, Andre Villas-Boas and Jupp Heynckes. Villas-Boas, with his emphasis on possession and pressing, was experimenting with a more progressive style at Chelsea. Heynckes, on the other hand, had a wealth of experience and was focused on efficiency and direct attacking play. Their contrasting managerial philosophies made for an intriguing chess match on the sidelines during the group stage clashes. The 2011-12 Champions League group stage also showcased the depth of competition in the tournament, with teams like Chelsea and Bayer Leverkusen fighting not only for qualification but also for pride. While Chelsea were the favorites in the group, Leverkusen's performances showed that any team could pose a challenge, emphasizing how every match in the Champions League carries weight. This level of competition is what makes the tournament so exciting and unpredictable, where even top teams can be tested by formidable underdogs. The match between Chelsea and Bayer Leverkusen at Stamford Bridge in 2011 also marked an important milestone in Chelsea's ongoing evolution. After years of building their squad with top talent, the club was beginning to understand the nuances of European competition. Their 2-0 victory over Leverkusen was a sign of the team's growing maturity in continental football, a development that would culminate in their Champions League victory later in the season. Another intriguing aspect of the Chelsea-Leverkusen clashes was how the Bundesliga's tactical approach often tested English teams in European competitions. The high pressing, technical passing, and focus on tempo that were central to Leverkusen's style provided Chelsea with a unique challenge. Their ability to handle these pressing situations, particularly during their 2-1 loss in Germany, was a learning curve that helped Chelsea fine-tune their approach for the knockout rounds, where they faced similar challenges against top teams like Barcelona. The impact of the 2011-12 Champions League encounters between Chelsea and Bayer Leverkusen went beyond just the results. These matches helped set the stage for the rise of German football in European competitions, as clubs like Leverkusen began to consistently challenge the traditional dominance of English and Spanish clubs. The tactical sophistication of Bundesliga teams in the early 2010s was a harbinger of the era in which German teams would come to dominate European football, culminating in Bayern Munich's 2013 Champions League win. Finally, the Chelsea-Leverkusen rivalry, though brief in terms of direct encounters, left a lasting mark on both clubs' European histories. For Chelsea, their matches against Leverkusen were a stepping stone on the way to their first-ever Champions League title. For Bayer Leverkusen, the group stage games served as a reminder of the fine margins between success and failure in European football. Both clubs would continue to grow and evolve, with Chelsea solidifying their place among Europe's elite and Leverkusen continuing to develop talented players who would leave their mark on the international stage.